What was the last straw? Before ending your best friendship, I met one of my best friends while studying in uni, both engineers. He is one of the smartest people I know, and we could talk for hours about science, anime, movies, books, etc. He then got involved with a woman after I started working. He then contacted me a few years later to ask for my assistance in finding a job. I knew he would effing slay at my current job, so I made sure his CV was on top of every selection process, knowing that if they called him and interviewed him, he was a shoo-in. We worked together for a bit, and then he got promoted twice. I was happy for him, but talked to him less as I began to see some odd patterns in his conversation topics. Lots of conspiranoia. 9/11 truther, fringe science, big academia restricting science, and the list went on. Years passed and I was eventually laid off from my job. I took the chance to finish my degree and found a different job. Not a call, nor a chat point, not even on Facebook. 2 years into a new job, he then contacted me again with some superficial pleasantries and then came the ask. He wanted to borrow my family's beach house to film a gonzo porn movie. I then understood that our friendship wasn't what I wanted or needed, so I requested him to never call me again. This bothers me to this day. He keeps telling mutual friends that I'm a Winnie baby. F him and his narcissism. My best friend of 2.5 years was going out of state for a 4-day weekend trip, so I house babysat for her kids. There were 2 others in charge staying too. I was second in command. I cooked, cleaned, took the kids out, and bathed and exercised her 2 dogs. I wasn't expected to do all that, but I did to keep busy and make it easier for everybody. I had to leave before she came home as I had to return to work on Monday. On Tuesday afternoon she called me and wanted to discuss the weekend. Surely she appreciated all I did over the weekend, right? Wrong. She got mad and accused me of talking crap about her behind her back and complained I used cooking equipment without permission, when she only said we couldn't touch her washer and dryer and that's it. She never said thank you for all I did. At that point I just yelled enough and hung up the phone. That was the last time I spoke to her, and that was almost 3 years ago. I put up with a lot of her crap, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Good riddance. My middle school best friend knew that I was being bullied by another girl and had been bullied by this same girl, but because the bully was popular, she wanted to be this girl's friend. She managed to become this bully's groupie, not really her friend, by stroking her ego all the time and taking the bully's side, even when she picked on me. The last straw was when I told my friend about my, at the time, most recent incident with the bully, where I'd politely asked the bully to please move out of the way as I was trying to go to the bathroom, and she was standing in the middle of the entrance talking to one of her friends. She responded with some completely irrelevant mean comment about my appearance. My friend responded, well, she has good comebacks. You gotta give her that. I probably should have cut her off sooner, but that was the pin that finally broke the camel's back, and I never spoke to her again. When she left her 3-year-old son for a drug dealer she met at the convenience store, her mother took her to court and got custody as the father was long gone. She subsequently popped out 2 more kids, and as soon as this guy received his inheritance, he left her. She had a full-time job, a car, own house, and was doing really well, just her and her son. Lost it all over some dick. Literally. I don't know where she is now, but this was the last straw. After I was constantly picking up the pieces, I realized after she was quite toxic, and it was a one-sided friendship. He ghosted me and my family. Met him at school at 11. Went to the same uni. Backpacked together. I moved abroad for a couple of years, then moved back to my home country. Met a girl. Got married in Vegas with him as best man. Had my first child. Finally moved back to my home area and had a second kid. He lived a few miles away at that point, and we never saw him once. Emails, texts and calls went largely unanswered. The only time he did respond was to make excuses and tire kick things down the road. It felt like a breakup with an ex. Made me miserable. In the end, I sent him an email saying we were done. I explained that I lived down the road and had a then 3-year-old and very sick daughter he'd never bothered to meet. It felt great. He tried for a couple of weeks to contact me through my wife's Facebook, and she was adamant I should talk to him. I refused. Years have passed, and I don't regret a thing. Nobody should have the power to make someone feel that worthless. I don't bear any ill will against him and hope he's doing well in life. I'd love to know what I did for him to ghost me that hard. I'm no saint myself, but I'll never find out now. The main thing is, it got rid of a very big, very bitter, grey cloud. When I was in first or second grade, my best friend at the time at recess decided to pretend like he never knew me for the whole day. He didn't even acknowledge me. My best friend, who I always played with at recess and lunch, suddenly acted as if he had never met me. I tried to ask him if anything was wrong, not even a glance at me at recess. He avoided me like the plague. He played with other kids instead of me. Even with hindsight, I look back and think about how much this messed me up that day. To childhood me, hurt me more than anything. So, logically, I had a meltdown at lunch. I tried to corner him and force him to talk to me. He evaded me. I chased him around the school for the entire lunch period. At some point, I got so frustrated and angry that I tackled him and tried to force him to talk to me. Aside from his grunts and exclamations at how crazy I was, which I kinda was at this point, he refused to communicate with me. I continued to chase him around. At certain times, I would even try and punch and slap him, landing some blows on his arms. Eventually, we ran towards the teacher on duty to supervise the kids. Me, in a snot and tear-fueled hysteria, I desperately tried to explain to the teacher that my best friend was running away from me and that he was refusing to even talk to me. It probably came out as a garbled mess. All the teacher did was smile, laugh, and did nothing. Even when I literally punched my friend in the shoulder really hard. Honestly surprised I wasn't suspended for this. The rest of what happened was a haze. All I remember is that the teacher interaction was a seal on my fate. He was no longer my friend, and I would never talk with him again. It was over. Years later, I realized that this moment in my childhood created my greatest insecurities about being alone, not having people to talk to, and, at times, not being the center of the conversation. It affected me enough to where, with my first girlfriend, we had serious communication issues because I always felt like she needed to affirm me or tell me that she still has feelings for me. Jet, if you're out there, F you. She was in an abusive home when I met her. All through high school and undergrad, I tried to help her, provided resources, tried to call police. I did everything. She would call threatening to hurt herself, completely inconsolable all the time, during important life events, funerals for me, everything, and it was always an emergency. Her mental health was shot, and I was at my complete last rope. Every time she called I had a complete panic attack. She started making bad choices, drinking during the day, dating shy men, and cheating on them. I helped get her out of her abusive home finally a few years ago now. Who get the credit? Her horrible scumbag boyfriend who was nearly 15 years older than her, who she then moved in with. I really tried, but the final straw was when she called me while she was at work, and when she knew something very bad happened in my life. She had a complete breakdown at her job for the third time in less than a month. I saw red. I couldn't do it anymore. I was watching a slow-moving train crash with a person who refused to get off the tracks. I told her if she didn't commit herself to a psych hospital by the end of the day, I would never speak to her again. I told her I felt like I was enabling her, and my advice and friendship was obviously not making her get better, and I stuck to it. I haven't spoken to her since because she refused to get help from someone that wasn't me. I miss her sometimes. She was like my sister, but my mental health is 100x better after I stopped talking to her. I met and fell in love with her cousin. Before I keep going, it's important to know she was engaged when all this went down. Her cousin and I started texting immediately after I met her and started dating a couple weeks after that. We told her right away we're interested in each other. To me she was the same person, stayed nice and kept wanting to hang out when I could even wanted to get matching friendship tattoos. To my now wife though, she had dropped her like a bag of bricks. Wouldn't answer her calls or texts, would ignore her completely. My wife, remember girlfriend at the time, sent a final text demanding to know what was up. Ex-BFF then replied she was mad that we were dating, and my wife doesn't need to have everything in the world. When they were younger, around 17 over 18, Before I even came in the picture, my wife was dating a guy. The weekend ex-BFF met him and hung out with them. As soon as my wife went to the bathroom, they made out. At the time, my wife came back from the washroom and was none the wiser. It wasn't until weeks later that she caught them texting each other. My wife asked them both to stop, but then she caught them again. That's when my wife and her stopped talking for years. They mended their relationship eventually. After all, they were cousins. I knew I had to make a choice, since it was getting pretty bitter between them. Knowing the story of what ex-BFF had done to my wife in the past though, her own cousin, and how ugly she was being with her again. Because of me, the choice was simple. Greatest decision I've ever made. I have the perfect woman at my side. Through mutual acquaintances, we found out she called off her wedding shortly after we stopped talking to her, and they swear it was a matter of weeks before she was already dating someone else.